As I've spoken here before, this is all driven by the liquidity cycle. It's actually a macro cycle driven by the refinancing of government debts because everybody reset interest rates to zero in 2008. They set their government
Most of the top cryptocurrencies are down at least 6% in the last 24 hours. As of press time, the CMC Crypto Fear and Greed Index, which is a way to measure market sentiment, is still on greed, but it has dropped to its lowest level since early February. This means that investors are wary of pullbacks, especially since the 2024 Bitcoin Hing event is coming up soon. The bad press has started in full swing, but Raoul Pal, founder and CEO of Real Vision and a well-known figure in the industry, says it's all normal for the crypto bull market, according to a recent post he made on the social media platform X. The market's job is to confuse and scare investors, so it's not unusual for prices to drop by as much as 35% before things pick back up. Pal is confident in the bull market because it is not acting like most crypto bull markets. In fact, the famous macro analyst says there is a very good chance that this is not a normal bull market and that prices will take off like crazy again soon. In a recent interview with the Bankless podcast, a friend talks about an interesting conversation he had with a famous billionaire who used to run a hedge fund. The mysterious billionaire says that the other billionaires are getting worried that crypto bros will one day be richer than them, and that if you can't beat them, join them. The billionaire former hedge fund manager also says that the commercial real estate guys are all over the place. The fact that this prediction was made shows how these new goods might affect the cryptocurrency market. A friend is so sure that this new wave of demand will happen that he thinks Bitcoin will reach at least $200,000 before the cycle ends in 2025. That's what he thinks will happen. His bull case is that things could quickly get more hot if demand puts more pressure on the limited supply. He says that Bitcoin could reach as high as $600,000 per coin before the cycle ends. Here are clips from Pal's talk with Bankless. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications to see more movies like this. You can also add to the conversation by leaving your thoughts and comments in the part below. Thanks and have fun watching the video.
debts all at 3 to 5 years gives us a 4-year cycle. That was the exact point, the launch of Bitcoin. It's also the US presidential election cycle. It's all the same thing. And election cycles, they give out candy to the kids, which is their way of stimulating. So it's all part of this stimulus cycle and debt refi cycle. So I don't think that changes because the debt issue is still too big. Okay, so what is the nuance of the cycle? Normally, we've only got 3 data points, but the crypto spring, which is the first year after the bear market, this has been a strong one. Bitcoin was up 150% or whatever. So that's pretty strong because we brought an extra source of demand in, as you allude to with the ETF. But that actually came later, but it was front running by hedge funds and participants.
Right. Us, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what we're in, by the way, now?
So summer, and that's usually happens after the halving. And after the halving, you see something that I know everybody's getting shit for right now, is if you go back to 2020, after the halving, what happened? ETH Bitcoin bottomed.
Right.
And then it slowly based, and then it started outperforming, right? That's when the market takes on risk and goes out the risk curve. And that's when you start to see Bitcoin dominance coming down, all of that kind of stuff. That's what the summer is. It's also altcoin season. It's when we hit what I commonly refer to as the banana zone, when everything goes bananas, right? The bit of crypto magic. Now, this banana zone is interesting to me because we've got this new source of demand. This is the most reflexive market ever, because the more people join the network, the more the price goes up. The more it encourages people to join the network, the more the price goes up. And obviously that reflexivity works in reverse, which is why we get strong bear markets. But basically, the world is underweight this asset because it's still a new asset and it's an adoption curve. So over time, more and more people join the network as investors or users. So I think we can see a second wave of panic into the Bitcoin ETF from people. I was speaking to a good friend of mine who's a kind of very well-known hedge fund manager, or ex-hedge fund manager. and one of the billionaire crowd. And he's like, Raoul, when do you think Bitcoin hits 100,000? I said, probably the summer, with the kind of demand and the ETF. It kind of feels like sometime in the summer. He's like, so much wealth is getting made in crypto. It's making the billionaire class nervous. I said, what are you talking about?
What?
And this was a lovely insight. He's like, okay, there's two groups here who all they care about, they're so rich, all they care about is where they fit on the rich table. Right? They can't be the Silicon Valley guys, but there's this whole group that compete with each other for how wealthy they are. It's not
like
even
the
about
scoreboard?
returns anymore.
Right.
It's like a scoreboard.
When you're in the
of
top
status.
10,000, you can kind of count your way to the top and you really know exactly where you are.
And so he said, they're all going to panic that they're going to lose relevancy. So they're going to panic in. They're going to panic into Bitcoin, the Bill Ackmans of this world and, all of these people. So I thought that was funny. But he also said the other group is the billionaire property developers. He goes, these guys are losing relevancy fast because of commercial real estate. And these guys have been lording it around, Palm Beach and everything else as the kings of the hill. And they're worried about their relevancy because, once you're worth $5 billion, it's not a wealth game anymore. It's like, am I richer than my neighbor? That's all they care about. And so he's like, I think that they'll probably get involved as well. And I think that mindset is pretty true everywhere, right? People see Bitcoin going up and then you hear that your mates, you're playing golf or having a drink and he made money in it. And then you think, I've got to make money in it. And this is the reflexive loop. So that's what crypto summer is all about. It's the FOMO, the madness, the insanity that crypto becomes. But it also drives adoption, drives money into the VC again. It flushes money through the system, allows people to build new product, which is the next cycle's gains and all of this stuff. So that's great. And then we go into fall. And this is where the complications lie. Crypto fall, which we historically 2025, they've generally finished at the end of the year. We don't really ever know exactly. I think this cycle's maybe started a bit earlier. I don't know. And falls can be the most tricky part. This summer is the easy bit. You just shut up and do nothing. And number go up. Fall is tricky. So if you go back to 2013, we had a 50% sell-off. People thought it was done because it had already gone up, 20x or something stupid. It then corrected 50%. Everyone thought it was over. And then it moon rocketed in just a way you can't comprehend. Then you get to 2017. Same. 2017, everyone kind of thought it was over early summer. And then it did, 10x from there. It was bananas, right? That is really hard to deal with because 2021 was a stunted cycle. We never got the accelerated final leg. We had the huge correction. It went up, poked its nose back up in the highs, collapsed. Everyone's got PTSD from that. The real money was made in those previous two bull markets in terms of percentage returns. Everyone now assumes it can only go up 3x from the all-time high. There is actually no evidence of that. Maybe something was weird in the last cycle because the other ones did a lot past the all-time highs. So how I think of it is a distribution curve. Middle is it kind of does what it's supposed to do until sometime mid H2 2025, it tops out. Okay. That would be normal. That would be Bitcoin as a price target of, call it 200,000, something like that. 3x the all-time high kind of thing. I would give a 60% probability. I think there's a 20% probability that people who are calling this a left translated cycle, i.e. we brought forward demand because of the ETF, it dries up, we're overperforming for this stage in the cycle. I think people saying that tend to be one cycle people because they only saw the last cycle because others have outperformed earlier on. So anyway, okay, there's a 20% chance of that. Then there's a 20% chance that this turns into a full-blown bubble cycle, a 2013, 2017, because of this new dynamics. You throw in an ETH ETF as well. You throw in, the $65 billion of VC that went into the last cycle. Somebody comes up with some killer applications. Before you know it, there's 200 million people playing a game. There's, stuff like this going on. Okay, that could create something crazier. And I'm continually assessing these probabilities in my head. And because there's so many people who I've noted have PTSD from the last cycle, the stunted top, it's less translated, they're going to take it away from us, starts to move my probabilities that you get a correction and then a spike. You can't predict that because everyone's going to hate you if you're wrong. Like I got hated at the top last time by thinking we were going to have that. Right. So it's also very difficult to manage. So it's complex, I would say, but we don't have to care this year, which is lovely.
Major central banks, like the U.S. Federal Reserve, have sent a lot of different messages. Lowering interest rates, many people in the market agree that rates will never go down, at least not back to the levels seen during the pandemic. However, Pal thinks that the huge amount of debt means that central banks have to cut rates significantly and start printing money again. Pal thinks that the Fed will not be able to make interest payments on its huge $34 trillion debt load with interest rates at 55%, as the former Goldman Sachs executive put it. For more movies like this, please turn on post notifications and hit the like button.